The National Desk, America's News Now.
He lied by telling the American people that there was an absolute wall between his official government duties and his personal life. Let's be clear, there was no wall.
The first impeachment inquiry hearing against the president has wrapped what we now know about whether Biden committed a crime. A shootout in Chicago left a trail of controversy. Today, 2 officers learned their fate. And we are just hours away from the next union strike deadline. Insiders say the UAW has made a new counter proposal. What those reports say and how the stock market is responding. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. For more than 6.5 hours, House Republicans showed why they believe they have evidence of an impeachable offense against the President of the United States. But questions remain on whether they have hit that standard.
At least 10 times, Joe Biden lied to the American people that he never spoke to his family about their business dealings.
We're 62 hours away from shutting down the government of the United States of America, and Republicans are launching an impeachment drive based on a long debunked and discredited lie.
Proper oversight or political theater? Christine Frizzau dives deeper into today's hearing.
Hunter Biden's business dealings long under investigation by the Senate, the Department of Justice, and most recently, the House Oversight Committee. But it's this question that remains central to the impeachment inquiry into his father, President Joe Biden.
What were the Bidens selling to make all this money?
House Republicans have long argued Hunter Biden had little experience or power to earn positions on the boards of companies like Burisma Energy in Ukraine or CEFC in China, that he was instead paid as a sort of middleman between the company and Joe Biden, then serving as vice president.
Whether it was lunches, phone calls, White House meetings, or official foreign trips, Hunter Biden cashed in by arranging access to Joe Biden, the family brand.
GOP lawmakers have for months insisted the firing of Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin in 2016 was not for reasons of corruption, as Biden and others have said, but because Shokin was investigating Burisma.
This is an embarrassment.
Critics accusing Republicans of using emails and other messages from when Joe Biden was neither in office nor a candidate as evidence of his wrongdoing.
If the Republicans had a smoking gun or even a dripping water pistol, they would be presenting it today, but they've got nothing on Joe Biden.
Even a key Republican witness said while an inquiry was warranted, the burden of proof has not yet been met.
I do not believe that the current evidence would support articles of impeachment. That is something that an inquiry has to establish.
In addition to making the case that Joe Biden benefited from his son's business deals, Republicans are trying to prove that his Justice Department played a role in trying to cover up aspects of the federal investigation into his son, a claim Attorney General Merrick Garland has repeatedly denied. I'm Christine Frizzau reporting for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Christine, thank you. For what it's worth, the majority of voters do not think this impeachment inquiry of President Biden should move forward. A new NBC News poll finds 56% of registered voters say Congress shouldn't start holding hearings to remove Biden from office. 39% support the process. The feelings, they do run on party lines. 88% of Democrats oppose the hearing, along with 60% of independents. Just 27% of Republicans oppose it. A federal shutdown is looking more likely as the clock ticks down. The deadline is Saturday at midnight, and no votes have been taken in either congressional chamber yet on a continuing resolution to keep the government running. As time slips away, both senators and House members are looking at Speaker McCarthy for answers.
The Speaker is having to make some very, very difficult choices, and it remains to be seen how he is able to bring this to an end.
I don't believe, based on what I've seen, that there was any real effort to do the appropriations process. I think that members should be looking for stronger leadership.
Meanwhile, federal officials have begun notifying staff about shutdown and furlough procedures. Essential workers, they'll be required to work with no pay. The rest will be furloughed until a deal is done. The United States Capitol Police Union told its members it expects a shutdown to last somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks. As many as 4 million workers would be impacted here, about half of whom are military troops and personnel. The manhunt is over. The suspect accused of killing a Baltimore tech executive now in custody, Jason Billingsley, captured overnight. Not only is he wanted in the murder of 26-year-old Pavel Lapierre, he has been connected as well to attempted murder, arson, and a rape that occurred last week. Prosecutors say they're seeking a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Meantime, a homicide was reported in Portland today, ending a streak of 30 days without one. This is now the longest such streak in years, besting 26 days spanning from December of 22 to January of 2023. Citywide homicides had been up in previous years, with one person killed roughly every 4 days in 2022. And let's turn now to Chicago, where 2 police officers have been acquitted on all charges. The cops were facing felony aggravated battery and official misconduct in the 2022 shooting of 23-year-old Miguel Medina, who was unarmed at the time. A Cook County judge ruled there was probable cause for the officers to discharge their weapons. Medina was seriously injured in that shooting, but survived. Teachers in Indiana, meantime, they are being called to arms. A new initiative underway right now to select certain teachers to be part of an armed response team should there ever be a school shooting threat. More than $100,000 is being allocated to train and arm teachers with firearms that will be hidden in various parts of the school building. It's a volunteer program, but the teacher will remain anonymous to students and parents. 34 states now allow teachers to be armed in certain circumstances or with proper permission. Tropical Storm Rina, that has formed in the Atlantic Ocean. That's new. That's the 18th named storm of the season. And look, this could be really good news for the northern Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico, because it could shift the impact entirely of another storm that's brewing. Tropical Storm Felipe, that was expected to hit this weekend. The 2 storms, they're separated by just 700 miles and could start impacting each other soon. The current forecast is still that Felipe is going to slow down and possibly turn north, sparing the islands, but forecasters will continue to watch this closely and see how it develops. Stocks for the big 3, GM, Ford, and Stellantis, closed up today. Take a look at those numbers. The early afternoon rally following a report out of Bloomberg that the UAW lowered their demand to a 30% raise, down from at least 40% when the strike started. That's closer in line to the 20 or 21% that has been offered by the auto companies. The union has not confirmed or denied their stance. Union President Shawn Fain has given another deadline for tomorrow at noon to announce new strikes if no further progress is made. Meanwhile, anxiousness is building by the day as the effects of the UAW strike are starting to hit Main Street America. 2 weeks into this work stoppage, economists believe auto repair shops will be the next to get impacted. The National Desk's Ann Larea is covering the fallout in Indiana.
Dozens of parts and distribution centers for the big 3 having workers walk out to the picket line. St. Joseph County's economic director saying his concern is for the effect on Indiana businesses that depend on the auto industry.
You've got AM General, you've got a lot of parts suppliers, you got a lot of people that could be affected, and the longer this goes, the could really have a rough effect, especially as we start heading into the holiday season.
It's something employees of local auto repair shops are keeping a close eye on, like Heidi Harshman, who is a retail operations manager for Zolman. She oversees day-to-day functions, including working with inventory. She says she hasn't seen any shortages from the strike yet, but that at times it feels like they're still rebounding from shortages like the COVID-19 pandemic, including tires, engines, and transmissions.
It takes me right back to last year and the year before that. When I'm watching it, and I'm watching it on the news this morning, that's what I'm thinking about.
Harshman says shortages, of course, can make the wait time to get repairs done on your car a little longer.
It may be a part that typically we would order from down the street and see same day. Now it's 1 day out, 2 days out.
But says it's not a matter of being afraid of a shortage. Instead, she's staying aware. And for those who have work that needs done right now and are beginning to question whether they need to rush their vehicle in, she says it's about weighing the importance of the issue.
And that's a lot of what we want to say. Hey, this is safety, this is emergency, this you can wait on.
Hollywood actors, they are still on strike, but their union, SAG-AFTRA, will start negotiating with studios again on Monday. The union is encouraging members to continue joining the picket lines in the meantime. Actors have been striking since July. Major concerns include streaming residuals, AI, and earnings. Meanwhile, writers will vote on their tentative deal next week. Coming up, new details from today's hearing on the Maui wildfires and the important question that remains unanswered. Then the steps the government is taking that could make meat more affordable in the U.S. Plus, the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus making a comeback after saying it was closing for good. We will share an exclusive conversation with the performers. We're back in just 90 seconds. President Joe Biden continues to deliver speeches warning about threats to democracy. Today in Arizona, he was seeking to draw a stark contrast between he and his leading conservative rival, Donald Trump.
And there's something dangerous happening in America now. There's an extremist movement that does not share the basic beliefs in our democracy. The MAGA movement. Not every Republican, not even a majority of Republicans adhere to the MAGA extremist ideology.
The setting for today's speech, a key battleground state. Biden also paying homage to late Republican Arizona Senator John McCain, who he applauded for always putting country first. The president announced the construction of a new library in honor of his longtime friend. The White House saying it'll be a multi-purpose facility for education, work, and health monitoring programs for underserved communities. Well, the race for the White House heating up even more now that the second debate is in the books, and we are less than 4 months now from the first votes ever being cast in this election. So did anyone put a dent in Donald Trump's big lead? And what's the White House reaction to all of it? Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman has more.
It is a game of catch me if you can. Donald Trump boycotting debates and somehow still coming out on top. A Snap survey by the Daily Mail shows Trump won the debate just by staying away. His commanding lead likely to remain for now. Trump calling the debate little more than auditions for his future administration.
They're all job candidates. They want to be in the, they'll do anything. Secretary of something. They even say VP. I don't know. Does anybody see any VP in the group? I don't think so.
His team tweeting out the debate was boring and inconsequential. Nothing that was said will change the dynamics. And the RNC should immediately put an end to any further primary debates. But voters are still shopping around. Just 1/5 of them in Iowa and only about 1/4 in New Hampshire say they're considering Trump and no one else.
We can't trust you. We can't trust you.
And while Nikki Haley delivered another strong debate performance, there was also good news for Ron DeSantis in that Daily Mail survey, who viewers called the most presidential and most competent on stage.
Donald Trump is missing in action. He should be on this stage tonight. He owes it to you.
In other words, don't declare his candidacy dead just yet, especially since Trump's perceived triumphs often are accompanied by troubles. On Monday, another hearing in the $250 million civil fraud trial in New York for allegedly inflating the value of his property and assets, and President Biden painting a gloomy picture of what another Trump presidency would bring.
Democracy should unite all Americans, regardless of political affiliation. And there's something dangerous happening in America now. There's an extremist movement that does not share the basic beliefs in our democracy, the MAGA movement.
That was President Biden in what he called his address on democracy, and doing so while honoring a Republican, the legacy of the late Arizona Senator John McCain. On Capitol Hill, I'm Scott Thuman. Amira, back to you.
Scott, thank you. Questions remain after a congressional hearing today on the Maui wildfires. Lawmakers asked Hawaii's top utility officials about Lahaina's power grid. The president of Hawaiian Electric said 29,000 power poles had been tested and treated for problems, but 2,000 hadn't been since 2013. She promised to get more information, including when electricity stopped flowing through downed power lines. Hours ago, a defiant New Jersey Senator, Bob Menendez, told his Democratic colleagues he will not resign despite facing federal corruption and bribery charges. More than half of his Democratic caucus has asked that the longtime lawmaker step down. When pressed for answers this afternoon by reporters, Menendez had this to say.
I will continue to cast votes on behalf of the people of New Jersey, as I have for 18 years. And I'm sure when they need those votes, they'll be looking forward for me to cast those votes. Okay.
He will continue to cast votes, he said. Already, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has replaced Menendez with Senator Ben Cardin as chair of the Foreign Relations Committee. Well, meat could become a little more affordable in the U.S. That's good news. The government cracking down on practices that could raise prices for chicken, pork, and turkey. Today, the Justice Department filed a lawsuit against the company AgriStats, Inc., claiming that its reports on meat prices and sales harm competition. A lawyer for AgriStats said the company denies the allegations. The U.S. economy appears resilient in the face of high interest rates based on new Commerce Department data. The economy grew at 2.1% at an annual pace in the second quarter, keeping the previous estimate the same. That's slightly lower than the first quarter's growth. And jobless claims rose only slightly last week to 204,000, according to the Labor Department. That was up 2,000 from the week before, and the 4-week moving average of claims actually fell to 211,000. We do have reporters across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America.
All available units respond to Blackstone Gorge. All hands on deck at Blackstone Gorge Wednesday afternoon. Adult-female party in the water and 2 dogs. After reports of a woman trapped in the ravine. 2 more feet and stop. And when rescue crews arrived.
She was at the bottom, probably about 50 to 75 feet down an embankment along the river's edge with her dog.
Cell phone footage obtained by NBC 10 shows firefighters from Massachusetts and Rhode Island battling the elements to bring her to safety. North Smithfield Fire Chief David Chartier says she was taking her 2 dogs for a walk when one of them slipped and fell into the gorge. The video capturing the rescue, crews using a basket and ropes to hoist the woman up to waiting first responders.
It remains difficult to get a death sentence in Florida, albeit Florida is now the easiest state in the country to get one.
Earlier this year, Governor DeSantis passed a law that allows capital punishment in Florida with a jury recommendation of 8-4 in favor of execution. Despite that, University of Miami law professor Craig Cicchino says don't expect to see an increase in death penalty cases.
But the point is it's hard to get a death penalty, and it ought to be hard to get a death penalty. That's a feature of the constitutional safeguards, not a bug.
because death penalty cases are expensive and hard to win. Tricino is not involved in the case regarding Matthew Flores, the man accused of killing Lyft driver Gary Levin, but says prosecutors believe they have a strong enough case.
Residents in the nation's capital say they are seeing an explosion in the rodent population. A city official told us 311 complaint calls about rats are going up. He said the rats migrated to residential areas during the pandemic when restaurants were closed. Well, Michael Gambon, the actor who played Hogwarts headmaster Albus Dumbledore in most of the Harry Potter films, has died at the age of 82 after a bout of pneumonia. The British actor's career spanned decades, and he starred in dozens of films. Gambon once said he never read the Harry Potter books, opting to stick to the movie scripts without influence from the books at all. And coming up, the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus making a comeback after saying it was closing for good. Exclusive conversations with the performers when we come back. The Greatest Show on Earth announced it was closing down for good back in 2017, but now it's making a comeback with a whole new look. National correspondent Mark Hyman got a sneak peek at the new Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, and he had exclusive conversations with management and performers in tonight's Inside Your World Investigates.
There are ever-expanding choices for remote entertainment tailored to individuals. But an American icon is returning to an old formula.
Welcome to the show!
Live, in person, and in the middle of a crowd. After shutting down more than 6 years ago, the Ringling Brothers Circus has reemerged, reimagined. Citing a change in public attitudes, there are no more elephants, big cats, and other animal acts. Full-face makeup clowns are history, but some acts remain.
The traditional performances like a trapeze and a high wire and cheetah board.
The past 2 decades have not been kind to big circuses. Cirque du Soleil went through bankruptcy reorganization. Ringling closed in the face of falling attendance and a years-long legal battle with animal rights groups. That was settled when the ASPCA and the Humane Society of the U.S. collectively paid more than $25 million to Ringling for their unproven allegations of animal mistreatment. The Humane Society issued a statement to Inside Your World stating, in part, the Humane Society of the United States celebrates the momentous news that Ringling Brothers will be joining the many popular animal-free circuses and shows touring the U.S. The full statement is on our website. The ASPCA did not respond to our request for comment.
Greatest show on earth.
Ringling producer Juliet Feld-Grossman told Inside Your World there is no substitute for the in-person experience. The excitement and joy allows people to put aside their worries for a little while. Casting director Giulio Scatola, who conducted auditions in 5 continents, was tasked with building an entirely new Ringling from scratch. He selected 75 performers from 18 nations.
It's challenging, it's scary, but it's great.
Inside Your World watched a dress rehearsal of the new show. Animal acts and clowns have been replaced by human endeavor performances. With NFL, theme park, and concert tickets fetching hundreds of dollars each, a family of 4 can still go to Ringling and buy snacks and souvenirs for about $200.
We're 4 families, and so we always consider in our pricing making sure that we are accessible to families.
Show presenter Lauren Irving, who also sings the opening and closing numbers, said the energy level is so high throughout the nearly 2.5-hour show that audience members will not look at their phones.
There's just too much excitement to be concerned with what's on social media, truly. Yeah. It's just energy, energy, energy.
Fellow show presenter Jan Dam made it clear this is not entertainment with subtitles or pause and rewind buttons.
You cannot experience what our audience will experience on streaming service, at a movie theater, anywhere else. You can only get it here, the greatest show on earth.
For Inside Your World Investigates, I'm Mark Hyman, near Sarasota, Florida.
And the show goes on. Speaking of shows, when we come back, the band that's about to make history at a cutting-edge new venue in Las Vegas. Stay with us. With or without you, U2 is set to make history on Friday when it becomes the first ever band to take the stage at the Sphere, the cutting-edge spherical venue that graces the Las Vegas skyline. Take a look at this here. This is what you could expect. We're talking about 160,000 speakers, over 260 million video pixels. The performance is set to kick off a residence series, meaning it's the first of many concerts to come. So the good news is lots of people are going to have the opportunity to bask in both the band and the magic of what is sure to be a show-stopping spectacle. And the Powerball jackpot inching closer to that $1 billion mark, ballooning past $900 million after no ticket matched all 6 numbers drawn on Wednesday night. 4 tickets purchased in California, Kansas, Maryland, and New York did match 5 numbers, winning $1 million. The next drawing is set for Saturday night at 10:59 p.m. So tomorrow might be the day you want to get that office pool going and up your chances of becoming a multi-millionaire. Best of luck. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. Thank you so much for joining us.